Hello and welcome to Making Gains in association with the University of Derby and Finnebrogue's Naked Bacon, the biggest revolution to happen to British breakfast in a generation. Now, I'm delighted to say that our guest on today's episode is a WWE wrestler. He is the former NXT Tag Team Champion, aka one half of Mustache Mountain. He also comes from God's Town, Wolverhampton. Trent Seven. Welcome to Making Gains, sir. Mate, if I said to anybody, WWE and vegan, a lot of people would not think that those two things go together. But with you, and actually a number of the boys and girls on NXT UK, it does. When did that start for you?
It was the first person that kind of made me start thinking about it was another wrestler, lad called Zack Sabre Jr. He wrestles out for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he's lived out there for quite some time. And it was probably about 6 or 7 years ago now. And he was the first person that I'd kind of found within the wrestling world that was, looking into this, vegan diet. So we got talking and stuff, and I probably asked him the same basic questions that everyone else asks. How do you get your protein? All that kind of stuff. And he kind of gave me a little bit of a run through, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because he's in great shape, incredibly fit, incredibly healthy. He's always been incredibly supple as well. That's what, not necessarily that's part of the diet or anything, but he was always incredibly lean, incredibly agile, always in great condition. So you're going to tend to listen to those people and take what they say, not just with a pinch of salt. So I looked into it a little bit more, and then Pete Dunne, he started looking into it a little bit more, and he tried it out for I think he did it a month. Then Tyler started doing it, and then after about 2 months of them two doing it, I made the change as well. I think it was late 2015, I think. No, late 2016, sorry. So it was end of 2016 when all three of us then became fully plant-based. So, yeah, and to be fair, it was a tough transition, I can't lie. There wasn't a great amount of choice or variation. And especially travelling, especially on the road, service stations weren't exactly a mecca for mock meat or oyster mushroom-based burgers and things like that. But now it's a free-for-all. Everywhere you go has got really good quality, high-quality, fresh ingredients, and they've got great vegan options, really good plant-based menus. Things that especially, obviously through the lockdown, things like Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Just Eat, all those kind of things have given fantastic range to the vegans and the veggies. So it's not as bad as it used to be. But, seeing all these places and seeing all these major chains getting on board and offering different options as well, it's definitely very positive. So it only holds good for the future.
Well, mate, I put myself in the meat reducing category. So I definitely enjoy meat, but I'm aware that ultimately the planet can't continue the way it's going. So how can I do that? I'll start reducing. And one of the first places I went to was Finnebrogue. So sponsor of the show, Finnebrogue, they do naked bacon, naked sausages. And I'll be honest, I was so skeptical when I first tried them. I thought, I know what bacon should smell, especially taste like.
Yeah,
mate,
yeah.
They're really good.
And some of it's good.
It is. And when I tried it, I thought,
some of it, though, let's not lie, some of it is really bad.
Okay, so I'm not experienced. Is some of it bad?
Yeah, some of it's dreadful. But it's a process of elimination. You got to throw some meat at the wall, some mock meat at the wall until something sticks. But yeah, there's some incredible stuff out there. But sorry, as you were saying, go on.
Well, no, it's just the fact that for me, when I was trying all these things, I thought, I could actually replace a lot of the stuff that I do like for stuff that I clearly also do like. But for me, the big one, weirdly, when I thought about it, was the dairy. It's the chocolate. I love chocolate. And then you start looking at so many things and go, but that's not vegan. That's not. I know there's a difference between plant-based and vegan, but I'm looking at it and going, okay, there's a lot of stuff in a lot of stuff, and a lot of that stuff I happen to really like. So, mate, I salute you.
Yeah. The one thing that I found the craziest when we started looking into it was it's pretty easy to just it's pretty easy to spot when there's a meat in something because there's meat in it.
Right.
But the amount of random things that you'd never have thought had milk or whey in or things like that, so weird. Doritos have milk in. I'm like, why are you putting milk on crisps? This is so backwards. But yeah, there's just crazy things, and I mean, obviously, it's things like cheese flavored things. You know, there's no actual cheese per se on it. You know, it's just derivatives of whey powder or milk powder and stuff like that. So, you know, but you know, every so often, you know, there's always things that slip through the net. You know, I'll just be there and I'll be munching away thinking, and then I'll go, oh, and then you check it, and then you just go, oh, no worries, and then you just pass it on to someone else or go and buy something else. But you know, it's incredibly hard to be 100% every time, and you can't beat yourself up about it as well. And,
right. Okay.
you know, there's going to be times when I go into someone's house and they'll offer me a cup of tea, and without even thinking, because every single time I go and have a cup of tea in my house or, you know, my friend's house, you know, my close friends' houses, they'll make it for me with oat milk or something. So then sometimes I'll forget and I'll be like, oh, that's good. Oh, wait a second. And it's just made with the most delicious blue top, full fat whole milk you've ever tasted in your life. But yeah, there's no denying that we all know it tastes delicious, but you know, there's so many sides to going plant-based or going vegan. It's not just about taste, or it's not just about animal welfare or anything like that. I think it's just, you know, it's about finding what works for you, and if you know, and if you can make those little changes, like you said, those little changes here and there along the way, then it obviously, you know, it helps out in whatever way it can. So,
well, mate, my sister's vegan, and she's like us from Wolverhampton. If you go, I'm from Clapham or Soho in London, vegan is probably a word that you hear chucked about a lot. In Wolverhampton, less so, but even less than that is probably Wolverhampton and WWE wrestler. So how did that happen for you,
dude? So, I mean, as far as wrestling, like, it is one of those classic stories from the start. I loved it from when I was a kid. And this was maybe telling my age a little bit without you having to go on Wikipedia or anything. But the first ever show that I saw was WrestleMania 5.
Wow! Okay, we're talking old school. I love it.
Yeah, so WrestleMania 5 was the first one I ever saw, and I was just blown away. It was just, you know, I'd watched boxing, and I could remember boxing and stuff like that my dad would watch on the telly and stuff. And but this was just like a cooler version of it for me. It was tassels and feather boas and fireworks and pyrotechnics and guys coming down from the ceiling and coming out the floor and flames and fire and these women at ringside cheating and helping them out and were dressed incredible. You know, it was just the theatrics and everything like that kind of dragged me in. And I remember vividly WrestleMania 5. I think it was Mr. Perfect versus Owen Hart. Right. Owen Hart his character was the Blue Blazer, and he came down from the sky, I think maybe, but he had this big blue feather boa thing on, and I was like, oh man, that's cooler than getting punched in the face.
The other thing that winds me up though is when you say I like wrestling, you get one of two responses mainly. Either do you know it's fake? Do you see what was the last film you watched on Netflix? And they'll tell me, do you know that isn't actually real? So you get that, or you get I used to watch it, and the I used to watch it are people that get it, and I think you either get it or you just don't get it. And when you do get it, I mean, I remember my first wrestling memory was watching Taker versus Kane at Nick Reynolds' house in Compton, Wolverhampton. And I remember we only got it because his brother I think his brother was well in school, and so we gave him a treat of being able to buy this pay-per-view. We didn't even know what pay-per-view was. So we stayed up. I've never been so scared as when Kane came to, I've never been that scared. And it was, like you say.
That must have been, what, WrestleMania 14-ish, something like that maybe?
Was that the first time they went head-to-head?
98, 97, maybe, something like that?
I think that's exactly what
probably
it was.
Around about the time, mid-90s, yeah.
Because I was year 6 or year 7 or year 6 or I think I was year 6. And it was, I've just never been that scared. And it was, and I remember that I don't know what it is about that I actually don't like scary films. So I don't know why I wanted to watch more of it. But like you say, the theatre, the telling of the story, the goodie, the baddie, you don't know what's going to happen. And then he gets close and it's, oh no, he hasn't. There's something so beautiful about that. And that's why I've loved working for NXT UK, is seeing that. But it's so raw. Like, the British fans are so into it. And you think, yes, guys. And then when it hits and you see you guys, in fact, I have to say, as far as the locker room goes, I think you set a lot of the opinion for the rest of the guys. So if you go, that was awesome, everyone is in agreement that that was special. And it's awesome watching you guys watch somebody else in the ring and just go, oh, yes. And it is something special to be part of.
Yeah, the locker room is fantastic. It really is. It's like, I feel like traditionally what would happen is you'd work your way up through the independents. You know, you go to some training schools. You maybe catch a couple of seminars from like maybe a former WWE star would kind of like come and do a little bit of a tour of the UK. You try and get on those kind of seminars to learn as much as you can. But you know, the old way was that you go up through the independents and you probably work on the camps and things like that, and you get a load of matches under your belt. You get in good enough shape and you get the chance. Then maybe, just maybe, when WWE are in town, you'll get a tryout. Now, if you got a tryout back in the day, you are literally this close to joining the WWE. But the WWE is a very, very different. It's a different beast, right? You know, at the moment, there's multiple brands. Back then was probably just Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
So you got to think, you know, it's only recently, probably in the last 10 years that we've had NXT, or we've had a performance center. Do you know what I mean? Things like that. So, and that has changed the landscape of wrestling. You know, there's a lot more people that are coming through NXT and then moving on to Raw and SmackDown. But yeah, it's like the path for me is the thing that's changed, and that's what I feel quite proud about. You know, now that there's a clear path, you can kind of see it isn't just hopefully when WWE in town we'll get a thing. It's the harder you work, the more you get yourself out there, the more you travel around the United Kingdom and Europe, and if you can get to America, brilliant. You know, grind it down on the independents, which is obviously all going to come back very soon. You know, fingers crossed. It's not, you know, you can get it in the next couple of months. And it'll just go back to that, and you'll see those people grinding and working 3, 4, 5 times a week, doing the camps and things like that. And then there's that clear pathway now. It's NXT UK, then it's NXT, then maybe you go to Raw, then maybe you go to SmackDown. And there's that much clearer path. And to be fair, you know, for the wrestling fans that watch this, you'll have seen it at WrestleMania last week. The people that are winning the titles at WrestleMania in front of thousands and thousands of people, with pyrotechnics going off, with the most incredible entrances, live famous bands playing their music. These are all people that have come through NXT UK and NXT. So it's amazing to see that people are not just making that career path, but they're making that career path all the way to the absolute pinnacle. So it's great for us. It motivates us, you know, and the locker room's just absolutely buzzing now because people are doing it. People are showing you that this is the path. You can take that path and you can become a millionaire from wrestling. It's just crazy.
And mate, in a short space of time, because Rhea Ripley is she's a brilliant
4
athlete.
years.
You can see that. But when NXT UK first started a couple of years ago, she was somebody with aspirations sky high. She worked her ass off. You could see the dedication there. Every single time she was doing tapings, her body had changed. She'd gotten herself bigger. She'd gotten herself stronger. But 2 years from that to headlining WrestleMania, I mean, unbelievable. And let's put that into context. So
Oh yeah, that's a good shout. What on earth could I possibly even compare that to? That is, the closest thing I can think is if anyone knows the story of Ian Wright. So he was a Sunday League footballer, right?
Correct.
That's pretty close. Sunday League footballer playing down Hackney Marshes or wherever it was. Got spotted by a scout at Crystal Palace, I think, something like that. Played for Palace. 2 seasons later, he's at Arsenal. It's the only thing that can come close to that. And I mean, it is 1 in a million chance of having that kind of career path to the Premier League. But that's the only thing I can even think that's close.
But and even I guess with that, because Ian Wright, I think he had to take a day off doing his shift work. He was doing a manual labour job. He ran the risk of losing that job if he went for it. And basically, his colleague went, Ian, this is a no-brainer. You've got to. He's got a young kid at this point. He's thinking, what am I doing with my life? Obviously, the dream's over. He's rolled the dice one more time. Like you say, Palace, then Arsenal, and not only Arsenal, one of the greatest Arsenal players of all time. You know, but
World Cup, played at a World Cup,
and really should have played it more. Played for England way more in my eyes. He was just an goal scorer. What a hit! Love Ian Wright.
Unbelievable player.
But in terms
of he played in what I would consider, and I know we all have different opinions about the fairy tale times of football, because it's when you're growing up, it's when your hormones are through the roof, it's when you're playing the most amount of sport. You know, you look at sport very differently, but you know, I look at football now with VAR and no fans, and how much of a struggle it's been for the last kind of couple of years. You know, you go back to those mid to late 90s. Whoa, there's some real footballers. There's some real football being played then. And you know, as much as this sounds like a corny thing to say, but you know, it was a man's game. There was Roy Keane and Alfinger Haaland and Martin Keown, Alan Shearer. They hacked lumps out of each other on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and
it was
you
tough.
Knew it was going to happen. But where there's parallel between Ian, actually yourself, you mentioned Ian, is that so he's gone from before Arsenal is Palace, before Palace is a manual labour job. So before becoming NXT Tag Team Champs, you are in NXT UK, and before that, you're on the road, you're in Pontins, Butlins.
Independent wrestler, yeah.
Right. But before that, mate, you're a salesman, a door-to-door salesman. Or probably at the same time.
Yeah, I had a little door-to-door sales team in Wolverhampton. Also, I traveled around for about 3 or 4 years doing it. Wolverhampton, our office was just in Queen Square, just above the Man on the Horse.
Who's Prince Albert, by the way? Only if you're in Wolverhampton, you call him the Man on the Horse. He's Prince Albert there.
I'll see you at the Moth at 12. £5 in your pocket. Get a McDonald's and a day saver. Oh, those are the days. But yeah, so the office was above the Man on the Horse, in the smack bang in the middle of town, and we were changing people's gas and electricity suppliers, and for cheaper deals and stuff. And it was the wild west. It was just wonderful. And and then I moved to Leicester and did some work there. Then I moved to Luton, did some work there. Then I moved into central London for about a year, which was great. And then moved all the way back home. Did it a little bit again. Then went into nightclubs and restaurants and bars and stuff like that, setting restaurants and bars and stuff up. And I'd say the most famous one of that is Steve Bull, obviously the
legend,
the man with the key to the city. The legend himself, Steve Bull. He opened a little restaurant, Italian restaurant in Tetnall. I don't know if you remember that. It's called Bravaccio's. I actually opened that. That was very good. That was a good little stint. So yeah, and I've had a lot of fun. You know, I've done a lot of jobs, and you know, I'll always look back on it very fondly. And then my mate had a telesales company, and I was like, right, I want to get into that. So I said, any chance of a job? And he was like, yeah, of course you can. So I jumped in there. We built a company. It was doing really well. I think we were doing PPI and claims and things like that. And it was really good. Great fun. We were in central Birmingham. And then, you know, the kind of market fell out of it a little bit. So then that was it. That kind of dwindled off. And it was like, right, time to concentrate on wrestling. Time to concentrate on, you know, trying to live an actual dream. And I think it was July 2016 was the last day that I worked in the call center. Okay. And then June, and then July, I think I made like £440 in a month as an independent wrestler.
Not a lot.
And then December, signed my first WWE contract.
So
crazy. Absolutely crazy.
If we go in terms of what it takes to do what you do, because there's a reason why that happened for you. It isn't just a roll of the dice. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who hasn't seen you wrestle, so British Strong Style, so you, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, it is brutal. And to be clear, do the guys know the outcomes? Yes, they do. Sometimes they're called in the ring, sometimes they're called beforehand. But I'll tell you what, seeing you guys walk back through the curtain afterwards, you have been through warfare. And I remember your hip one time was really bad. This is NXT UK. And you could, mate, you were visibly limping when you walked. And I went, mate, are you all right? And you went, it's just what we do, mate. And when you said that, I thought, that is just, yes. It's just what we do.
Man, I sound like such a veteran of the game. Don't worry about me, kid. This is how we do.
But I know I wouldn't last 2 minutes in there because I love the gym, I love lifting, but I can't bear weight. I can't. If somebody was just to jump on my back with perfect symmetry, even then something's going to go. Whereas, what is it about? Yeah, right. About what, like, your body, your training. What is it that makes a great wrestler and makes you able to do what you do?
I'll be honest. I think it has parallels to almost everything. It's just such a strange thing to want to do. So, like, as kids, we pick up a football and we go and play football.
Yeah.
You know, if you get the chance, you pick up a golf club and you go and swing a golf club, or you pick up a cricket bat and you start playing cricket, or you pick up your friend and you throw him on the ground and he gets back up again and says, yeah, let's do that again. That's where the parallels are tough to, you know, it's tough to equate it to any normal kind of sport. But I think it's just that, you know, it is a form of entertainment. It is this crazy athleticism, this crazy hard knock way of it's. You're basically just stuntmen. You know, that's a good way to look at it. You know, I don't think any kid in the world grows up going, oh, do you know what? I don't think that Jason Statham actually did that out of that plane. So someone else, I'm going to be that guy. You know, it's very strange, but I think it's the glitz and the glamour of pro wrestling. The glitz and the glamour of pro wrestling makes it, oh, there's got to be a reason why they're doing this. Do you know what I mean? There's got to be a reason why they're putting themselves through this. It can't hurt that much, can it? Does it? And then once you've gone to your first couple of training sessions, wow. You can't walk for 2-3 days. Some grizzled old veteran has just beaten you up. But you get the experience of what it actually feels like. You know, it's the same as whether you're running drills at, you know, under like youth rugby or youth football. You know, it's no walk in the park. You know, everyone's got to have their own kind of determination, their own kind of skill and kind of want to achieve. And I just think it's that. I think as kids, you just latch onto things, don't you? You know what I mean? Whether your parents play it or your parents do it or not, or, you know, if you grow up in a house and your dad's got fast cars or he's always doing up a car, he's a mechanic, you're going to have that natural want to find out what's going on there. And I think that was just what happened to me. I watched this wrestling on the telly. There was an old lady who used to live next door to us. I can't remember her name now. But she was absolutely donkey's years old. I'm sure she lived to about 100. Well, she always used to have the wrestling on the World of Sport on a Saturday and Sunday. And I always used to go around and watch that. And I remember watching that going, oh, this is pretty cool. And it just hooked you. And it just hooked me. And I never thought, I'll be honest, I never thought, you know, between, say, the ages of 20 and 30, that I'd ever be a professional wrestler of this level. You know, I always knew I'd like wrestling forever. I always knew I'd probably do it semi-professionally, you know, like independently. But, you know, you had to have a job in the meantime anyway to even want to pursue that career, or there just wasn't enough money in it, and there really wasn't enough money in it until probably until we kind of broke through to WWE, and we kind of made that merger between WWE and the independents.
Right. Okay.
And that was where things really started to click. That's where things really started to change. People were making really high quality merchandise that they were selling at the shows, and that was supplementing their income. Then people were traveling that little bit further because of the internet, and Instagram and Twitter was making people a lot more popular, a lot more quicker. So
the ICW doc on BBC did really well, because I remember seeing that.
Right, yeah, that was an incredible documentary. That did wonders for British wrestling. That did, yeah.
Are you in actual? Did you used to scrap when you were younger? Is that how you kind of made?
God, no, never had a fight in my life. Never had a fight in my life. I would happily run as fast as I can away from any kind of real conflict.
That surprises me.
Unless I needed to stand and fight, but that typical kind of like, budging into someone in town kind of. I'm just too old for it. I've never been into it. I've seen my mates get whacked in town when we were kids and stuff like that, and it's just, it's never for any kind of reason. Do you know what I mean? It's always just, people pissed up or whatever, just scrapping for the sake of scrapping, and it's just something I've always been more of a talker. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'd much rather have a chat to someone.
On the indie scene, where you could be facing anyone. You could be facing somebody who's trying to make a name for himself, who knows? When you've got, in the wrestling industry, you call it working stiff. Somebody who's, when he's throwing shots, he's really laying them in. What do you do if you've got a geezer in front of you who's working super stiff? You don't really know him, or maybe he's even got a reputation for working stiff. Do you try and match it so that he respects you, or do you just accept it's just going to be one of those nights, or what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, because sometimes you're just going to get those people that are just a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger.
Right.
So what one man's 50% is very different to another man's 50%, right? Do you know what I mean? It's the same as weightlifting. Two people can both go into weightlifting with the same kind of venom and the same kind of want to lift, but one person's going to lift a lot more than the other guy if he's stronger. So it's kind of the similar like that to wrestling. Some people are just going to be a little bit more bullish and a little bit more powerful, and some of them are going to be a little bit smoother and a little bit sleek, and they might try and take you down and work you down, but then some of the geezer might just plow through you. But the goal of wrestling is to create a moment where the fans completely disassociate themselves with normal life and just invest.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes from comedy. Sometimes it comes from a form of comedy, or using something funny in a wrestling match or in a wrestling move that will hook that person in. Sometimes it comes from something a little bit more something a little bit more impactful. Sometimes it comes from just pure technique and skill. But I remember that the first thing that always comes into my head, the first thing that would make me watch a wrestling match is, obviously these guys have come out in some wonderful attire, or some wonderful clothes, or some mad colours. But when that bell rings, that's where you get the chance to really grab someone's attention, And I feel like wrestling went through that kind of dull, its duller patches, simply because I just don't think the standard of professional wrestling was good enough. I think whether I don't know what reason, but there was obviously always great professional wrestlers out there. But if the number of great professional wrestlers out there isn't big enough, then all the fans aren't seeing that same quality of wrestling. And I think that's what probably cost a lot of people maybe, way more successful careers, because those guys were probably grinding it out, all the way through the late 90s and the early 2000s on the independents, when everyone was just watching wrestling on the telly. And there's probably way too many people, or skinny kids, thinking they were Jeff Hardy, rather than these actual incredibly talented professional wrestlers, the incredibly talented workers that were probably working, 200 shows a month, 300 shows a year.
Right.
But they were trying to grind it out. But, It is just the way it is, you know. That when the bell rings, you've got to grab the attention of the fan as quick as you can. Sometimes it's going to be a smack. Sometimes it's going to be some more creative kind of parading around, or sometimes it's going to be something a little bit more funny. But that's what I always thought. So no matter whether it comes as a bullish hit or it comes as a little bit stiff, you know, over the course of that 10, 15, 20 minutes, you know, the two people in that ring, the point of Ian being there is, it's not a selfish reason. You know, the only thing that's possibly selfish about it is you want those fans to be walking away saying that was the best match of the night. Those two guys went out there and had the best match of the night. Or those two girls went out there and they had the best match of the night. So, yeah.
Wait,
sometimes you probably go,
do you remember? I'm not sure what the event was. I think it was a takeover. I'm not sure what month it was, but for NXT UK, the pep talk Triple H gave everyone backstage before they went out there. Mate, I was there in a suit and I was ready to get in that ring. When he told the story about, I think it was Jerry Lee Lewis, and about how it was it top that or beat that, and then there was it was. And again, if anyone hasn't heard the Jerry Lee Lewis story, from what I remember Triple H telling is that he should have gone on last in this particular festival day performance. And there was somebody else who they decided to put on instead. He went, no, I'm the guy who goes on last. It's who I am, I'm Jerry Lee Lewis. And they went, no, we've got somebody else. Anyway, it kind of came to a head. And then Jerry went, do you know what? Fine, I'll go on second last. That's all right. And he goes out there, absolutely murders the place. I think he set his piano on fire or something absolutely mental, leaves the stage, looks at whoever's about to come on next and says, beat that. And correct. And that was when, and so Triple H retells this story, but the way that man speaks, like, he's a pure alpha. He commands every word he says, you're hanging off. He's such a cool guy. And honestly, I remember going, I want to go out there. Mate, that is seminal moments like that were just such a privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, those are the kind of moments that will stay with you forever, whether you do 10 takeovers or you manage to get on one, or you know, some people aren't even going to be in a takeover, but just being there for that kind of moment where the blood's boiling and like the pressure's building and everyone's just kind of a little bit nervous, and then this legend of the game, you know, I get like when I look at those things, like, and I look at how, you know, lucky and fortunate I am to have the career, but to be able to see people that of that caliber, you know, it's like being in the Old Trafford locker room at halftime with Man United 2-0 down in 1997. Imagine being in that locker room, Man United 2-0 down at Old Trafford or something like that, and then Alex Ferguson comes in and shuts the door behind him. Right. Right, yeah. Oh my God. He must have literally breathed fire. But that's what it feels like. It's those, you know, when you're around those people and those kind of motivators, that, you know, they change the way you think, they change the way your brain works, they change the way you physically feel different. Like your body starts to tingle and your hair stand on end, and you know that you just can't buy that. I mean, if you could bottle it, I'd be necking it every day. Good
mate,
Lord.
Right? But okay, I'm going to ask a bit of a kind of a loaded question, because so you're, I guess, of an age where you're loving what you're doing, but you know that it's not going to be perhaps so. In 2 years' time, will you be doing what you're doing? I imagine yes. In 22 years' time, the answer is, I'd say definitely not. So
Tyler will be okay.
Yeah, Tyler, unbelievable. So at some point, you're going to have to hang up the boots. But I feel like for you, you're such a phenomenal talker and communicator that you could go down almost a similar route to myself of presenting.
Yeah, I mean, that is 100% the way I would like to, and the way I will be positively kind of pushing my career to go. And it's not necessarily, I don't necessarily have like a deep love for commentating or necessarily interviewing or anything like that. It's just more the presenting side of it, as in, I mean, arguably, not just specifically me being a presenter, but the presentation of professional wrestling, of NXT UK, of wrestling within popular culture. Do you know what I mean? I don't, because there's always, you know, like you said at the start, you know, when you ask people about wrestling, they go, "Oh, it's fake," or they go, "Oh, what, like Big Daddy?"
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like they sound like Big Daddy, or like, you know, a slightly younger generation will go, "Oh, like Hulk Hogan and all that." And that's when I hear that, I go, I can get to you. I know that wrestling now can get to you. You know, you know what Hulk Hogan is, the Bushwhackers, you know, Big Boss Man, all that. Do you know what I mean? The Warrior, like, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I know I can get to those people because the same thing enticed them to watch it as enticed me. And that's what I need to make sure, for me personally, and this is just me kind of sending out my like mission statement or whatever it is for my life in wrestling, is to constantly never forget that that's the reason why we do this, is goodie versus baddie. It's the reason why you go and watch a film at the cinema. It's the reason why you go and watch a play. It's the reason why people go and watch opera and theatre. It's because it's good versus evil. It's a protagonist. It's an antagonist. It's magical. It's magical storytelling. And, you know, UFC manages to just do it itself so organically, you know, that like, sorry, what's the guy's name who just retired? His dad passed away. Yeah, his dad passed away just before his last fight. Is he Russian? Is he Russian? No.
His dad passed away.
What's his name? The light heavyweight. Oh God, I can't think of his name.
If you carry on, I'll Google as we speak.
So anyway, I'll do a replay. Yeah, so even things like UFC, like it just organically has stories that naturally come out of it. Where we've now got the chance, you know, in professional wrestling, we are just like, we are Hollywood. We're the Hollywood of sports entertainment. You know, we've got this platform of being able to tell
Khabib, dude.
Khabib, that's it. The story of Khabib, like with his dad, you know, passing away and getting to that certain number of fights that he said he would retire at, and it was the one before it. And I'm just like, we couldn't write that. You know, the professional wrestling world is going to struggle to write a story that good. But that's always been my goal, is to continue to empower professional wrestling and fans to watch wrestling, because this is where you'll see the larger than life characters. This is where you'll see the normal looking guys doing abnormal things. You know, you'll see the Mick Foleys falling off cages. You'll see the Dusty Rhodes. You'll see the Kevin Owens, but you'll see the Rey Mysterios, the Daniel Bryans, all these legendary people, these legendary performers that can go out there and tell a story, that can overcome adversity, or can be the person that puts, you know, that good guy under so much threat, you know, who can be the villain, you know, and that for me is truly what professional wrestling is. It's good versus evil, and it's how long is it going to take for it to be overturned, and how long are we going to take to see that underdog's victory, you know. And that's wrestling for me. And whether it's done via presenting it as me being the face of it, whether it's done as me in the back, you know, kind of into more of the training side of things or the production side of things, that for me is everything, you know, the presentation of wrestling and how people perceive professional wrestling.
So here's a question. So BT Sport, it's live. You hear the titles roll. It's the bump, and the titles are going, and all of a sudden, in vision is your face. You're speaking to the camera live about something that you couldn't care any more about. Do you get that same buzz? Do you get that feeling?
The dream, honestly, mate. Apart from if physically professionally wrestling was not an option, that would be my dream job. The thing we're doing now with BT Sport, it's called Running, and it's like a monthly kind of preview thing for whatever pay-per-view is coming up. And obviously it's been WrestleMania season, so it's just been super duper busy. That for me is, oh, what a dream job, being able to go out there and advertise and lure people in and make people make the choice. You know, there's so much stuff you could be doing with your time. The world is so filled with options right now, especially online. There's so much content to consume, but being able to entice those people in with, you know, by physically fighting in the ring is magical. You know, and I'm not, you know, I wasn't on this year's WrestleMania. I hope I'm on next year's. That would be fantastic. But, you know, getting to do these things like the running and enticing people in, saying, no, you've got to watch this. This is must-watch TV. It's must-watch entertainment, let alone must-watch wrestling. You know, I'm just incredibly passionate about it. I really am.
You can see, mate. You can see.
I hope that, yeah, and I hope that people can understand it because, yeah, presentation and presenting is definitely what I want to go into. And you know, I'm getting the chance to kind of cut my teeth a little bit as far as like BT Sport and the running goes. So hopefully you'll see a lot more of me on your screens. Maybe
it's well deserved
this time. And just my pants.
And we will miss those when they're gone. But final questions, and just generic ones. Favorite wrestler of all time?
Oh, Ric Flair.
Greatest wrestler of all time?
The Rock.
Best finisher of all time?
Oh man, best finisher of all time. Well, that would obviously have to be the Birmingham Hammer, which is my finisher. No, what's the best finisher of all time? I think it's got to be the Stone Cold Stunner. Got to be, right?
Okay.
Hit it from anywhere. Boom.
Best entrance music.
Wow, that's tough. There's a lot to be said for when Hulk Hogan was in the NWO and he came out to Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix. That was a pretty cool tune to come out to. I don't know how they pulled those strings, but it happened. As far as best music ever, oh man, there's just so many. Time to Play the Game, Triple H, that one. That was pretty amazing. But when the glass smashed, with for Stone Cold Steve Austin.
There aren't many things.
Legendary music.
What's amazing is if I said to you, what song is this? And if I played you the first 3 seconds, you go, don't know. There aren't that many songs that within the first second and a half, you go, I know what it is. And
yeah.
So, and when you have Car Crash Mick Foley, Glass Smash Stone Cold,
yeah.
The Rock, you just is, and I was at Mania working for Blue Peter when the Hardy Boys returned, and just hearing
we were there,
drums,
yeah, we did that thing at Access.
Exactly.
I remember that was the first time I ever met you. Yeah.
Right, and we get your Blue Peter badge.
We did, and that has got me into many a Victorian fort.
But yeah, it is special. And final question then: if you're at Mania, you're on first, who are you up against? Dream match.
Tyler Bate.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh,
Tyler Bate. Intercontinental title versus world title. Winner takes all, a la WrestleMania 6. Mind you, that wouldn't be first on, would it? Let's be honest. Intercontinental Championship. Okay, dream match. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the stakes are. It'd just be against Tyler, I think.
And then the final question, because you mentioned Tyler, best tag team ever apart from yourselves?
Oh, that's tough.
It
There's
is
so many.
that to me is the hardest question I've asked so far.
My heart instantly wanted to say the British Bulldogs then,
Okay.
because they're just so influential on on us as British lads. But I think I would be lying if I didn't if I said it wasn't the Hardy Boys.
Okay. It's
the Hardy Boys.
I will finish by saying that Jim Cooper, while we were in year 8, did a swanton bomb off our cricket pavilion onto Bob Finch, who was on a wheelie bin, and everyone was fine. Everyone was fine. How I remember Jim Cooper going, swanton, starting the motion of he's now in the air, he's now going backwards. And I remember there were 100 of us. We all went, and it was silence until and I remember looking at Bob. I had time to look at Bob Finch. Bob, you could see the whites of his eyes because he suddenly, I didn't agree to this. I thought it was a wind-up. I didn't look at my mate Searles, and I've gone, then look back up. He landed it. The wheelie bin totally folded. Everyone was fine. And that is what
the lucky thing. I remember when we were at school, I used to go to St Edmunds.
Yeah.
And when we were at school in the summer, everyone would just pile their bags into a square, and that would just become like the wrestling ring. And we would run and jump off the. I mean, it's probably only about a 4-foot hill. We would jump off there, and I'm sure I'm probably going to get myself into trouble here, but
there's a bloke who looked just like you at St Edmunds at the same time that wasn't you, but there was somebody else that you saw.
I don't think it was me, but I think I've convinced myself of that because I didn't want the blame. But there's this lad called Michael Brown in our year, and someone tombstoned him, might have been me. Someone tombstoned him, and it broke his collarbone. And oh my God, we were in so much trouble. Oh my God, it was so bad. But but like it was just the best for me. It took us over.
Tom Redfern's brother, who was 2 years below, tried to rugby tackle a guy who looked and sounded just like me. And the bloke who looked and sounded just like me couldn't believe that when he tried to rugby tackle him, his head wasn't to either side of his hips, it was in between his legs. And I thought, I've got two options here. The bloke who looked just like me, could pedigree him, or he could try and get a last ride out of it. And somehow, again, just the stars aligned, the bloke who looked just like me put his hands underneath this lad's hips, whipped him, finds himself with both legs here. He's not quite on the shoulders, but it was enough that the bloke who looked just like me then puts his hand on the torso of Tom Redfern's brother, slams him into the ground. He was winded. That bloke thought he's dead. He thought he was going to jail. The bloke who looked just like me. And after 10 seconds, you just heard, ugh. And then it was, everyone's fine again. Everyone's fine. That is what wrestling can do to you, but don't try anything at home unless you are professional.
Do not try anything at home. Yeah, that is adrenaline. Believe me, adrenaline will get you through many, many things, and including power bombs on the floor. Yeah, we've been through scrapes.
Mate, before we both get ourselves into trouble by revealing all of our amateur wrestling past, I'll say it's been an absolute pleasure doing it. We'll have to do it again. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, definitely.
And just finally, when are we going to see you next? Potentially on NXT UK, and when is it on?
You can see us on NXT UK. It's on the WWE Network on Wednesday nights, and it's on BT Sport on Thursday nights. So either way, tune yourself in. Get yourself a big, large portion of British Strong Style every Wednesday and Thursday with me, yourself. You're not there. What am I talking about?
Very sad.
Tune in on a Wednesday or a Thursday. The network's on a Wednesday. BT Sports on a Thursday for a big, solid portion of British Strong Style via Mustache Mountain with me, Trent Seven, and the big strong boy, Tyler Bates. He's not here, but he's here in spirit.
Trent, it's been a pleasure, dude. Take care.
Thank you so much. Big love.
naked bacon. One day, all bacon will be made this way.